today, the topic is how to overcome the fear of failure. So it's an interesting topic because I would say it's probably the number one worry that people talk to me about as they are embarking on new areas of their careers, especially when they're considering starting a new business after being in the JOB world forever. But it's also present for people who are in business and looking to embark on a new, maybe a new avenue of business. Maybe they want to change directions. Maybe they want to accelerate their business. Fear of failure is so powerful and dominant with so many people that it's one of the areas that people complain to me about most. So I think it's really important that we have this conversation about it. But I have a feeling that the way I'm going to be sharing about this with you today is probably not the usual way. Yes, I'm going to be giving you some guidance and some tools and some tips and all of that, but I really want to let you know that I'm probably going to be debunking a bunch of myths around the fear of failure. So the first thing I want to sort of say is I had a conversation with somebody pretty recently about this fear of failure. And she told me that she had been working with her therapist about this for years and years. And I hear this a lot. People are working in therapy around it for years and years and years. And I get it. Like when we have these gigantic fears and we can't seem to break through, what do? We run to the therapist. I'm here to tell you that therapy, while it has its place, very often is not getting at the actual source of the problem, and that's why it goes on and on and on, and that's why it doesn't get lanced and eliminated permanently. If you don't get to the source, it's like any disease. If you're not getting to the source of the disease and you're treating only the symptom of it, you're never going to become healthy. And it's the same thing with this fear of failure. And I'm going to share why in a second. But if you think about it this way, fear of failure is actually a symptom. It's not the problem. It's a symptom. You're experiencing an emotion. And the thing that's really pretty astonishing around it is the emotion of fear of failure. While you may be thinking that it's fear of failure about starting a new business or going into a new relationship or selling a new product or whatever it is, you're not really, the fear of failure is not really about that. It's really about something way deeper. And that's really why it's continually happening to people, where they never seem to become free of this fear. So let me give you an example about why this is happening. When we're born and we come into the world, we get messages from family, from parents, from all kinds of places. We get responses to the way we are in the world. And when we start to learn, when we take our first steps and all of that, we get, yay, you took your first step. Yay, you're so wonderful, right? We get big applause and people are clapping for us. But when we fall down and we start crying, we don't get big applause. Nobody says, wow, you failed, great, awesome, aren't you terrific? No, they just say, poor baby, for a while. They say poor baby for a while. But when it comes time to going to elementary school and you're in school and you start bringing home report cards, and your report cards they're not all A's, they're B's and maybe C's and all of that. You start to get responses from your parents and from your family members around your performance, right? If you're not getting A's or B's, you're getting messages like things are not okay. So right away, you are in the midst of you're in the midst of getting responses from people that are telling you that not doing well is not acceptable. So automatically from the get-go, you are absolutely trained to avoid failure at all costs. You don't want to disappoint your family. You don't want to disappoint your parents. You don't want to feel the impact of their negative emotions, their fear, and all of that. So you start to avoid anything that's going to give you a sense that you're not doing well, that you're not going to be accepted, that you're going to get in trouble, that they're not going to love you, that they're going to take their love away, that they're going to take their protection of you away. I mean, parents sometimes even threaten their kids, and they just really they tell them they're going to take their phones away, they're going to take their, they're going to be punished. It's just, this is how we get to learn about failure. So we stop trying. We stop trying to do things that are going to potentially cause us this discomfort. When we don't get applause or gratification, we avoid. And so it comes from such an early point in our lives. When you are so I want you to realize that your fear of failure about going into your own business, investing in something, getting into a new relationship, when you start to consider taking steps into trying new things like, sports or riding a bicycle or anything like that, you are reacting like a 5 or 6 year old. That's basically what you're doing. It's old fear or response, learned response that you're dragging into today. And while you might be able to justify your fear, like, if I invest in this and I lose money, what am I going to do? It all comes from the fear of the past. It's not about today at all. You're justifying old fear. So you're basically letting a 5 or 6 or a 7-year-old run your 50-year-old life, 60-year-old life. That's basically what's going on. If you are so concerned about making a misstep and you are feeling fear, it's very, very old, because you've gotten old messages. We're still trying to please parents and family members and people who are important to our safety as children, but they're no longer responsible for our safety. We are. They're no longer responsible for our results. We are. But we're still treating our today fear as if it's current. It's really not. It's very old. But you've been dragging it around, and you're going to keep dragging it around until you get at the source of it. And until you realize that that fear is the fear of a 5 or a 6 or a 7-year-old that you're using for today, and it's stopping you from having the life that you really want. You need to realize that you can't have the life you want when you're living out of a fear of a 5 or a 6-year-old. Just not going to work. Here's why. You can take new steps, and you can make efforts, and you can say, yes, I'm going to go for it. But as soon as one little roadblock happens, one hiccup happens, you're going to ditch the effort. You're going to give up. You're going to stop. You're going to say, I should never have tried that. That's because it's a 6-year-old, a 5-year-old, an 8-year-old, fearful of having a parent's love taken away, a parent's approval taken away, the fear of safety and survival taken away. And those were real when we were kids, but we didn't know what to do with that. Now we're adults, but we still drag those old fears away. So we just desperately, at all costs, avoid taking chances about anything. Now, there are a lot of people who don't do that. They are willing to overcome or step beyond their fear of failure. But if you're experiencing fear of failure on any level, and it has stopped you from living your dream on any level, it's important for you to realize that that's a very old fear. And until you address that very old fear, you're stuck with it, and it's going to run your show. And you need to realize that it's not the truth anymore. It's that 5 or 6-year-old's fear, not your real fear for today. Because today, as an adult, you've got skills, you've got tools, you've got abilities, you've got experience, you've got brains, you've got control, you have options, you have great opportunities in your back pocket to leverage. The thing is, though, we will replace, let's say, if you're no longer really, if let's say you're about to embrace a new activity or a new effort, and this fear of failure is coming up, while you may not be worried about mom or dad disapproving of you, you now will replace something else so that you can feel that old disapproval or that old fear of making a mistake. Because the impact of that is so familiar and so usual and so common to you that even if your parents are no longer around, even if your family members are no longer around, even if the people who did you wrong are no longer around or gave you negative messages are no longer around, you will replace them with other people or other experiences that will give you that negative response that you know or that you believe is going to happen if you misstep. So the most common response to fear of failure for people is to do nothing, is to avoid making a mistake. And so what happens is the impact of that is that people are living lives of quiet desperation or mediocrity and accepting it and tolerating it and willing to tolerate the discomfort of not living a full out life and having the results that they want, just so that they will not be feeling the impact of disapproval, people saying, I told you so, all that stuff. You just replace other people's or even your own internal judge or editor in there. Like, you will find a way of replacing that old 5, 6, or 7-year-old's disapproval with a today version of it. You're stuck in a box. So no matter what tips I give you about the fear of failure and what you should do about it, unless you get at the source of it, it's going to recur. No amount of intellectual information that I give you is going to make a bit of difference unless you are willing to embrace failure as part of the beautiful part of life and growth, and enjoy and actually embrace it and appreciate it and enjoy it as part of, we don't really, nobody sits around saying, boy, it was so great when I fell off my bicycle and nobody clapped for me. No, we don't like that. Nobody likes losing a football game or a tennis match. We don't like it. We like winning, because winning, we get approval. Losing, we get no approval. We don't win money. We don't get claps. We don't get high fives. We get nothing. We get, poor baby, too bad, well, you tried. That's it. And that's what we sit with. But here's the thing. It's not going to make your life any better, and it's not going to fill your bank account. It just isn't. Holding on to what you got and not going for the true dream that you have isn't going to make you, it's not going to make you wealthy. It's not going to make you prosperous. But for so many folks, it's so familiar that that's almost preferable to putting yourself out there, playing a bigger game, making the effort, and being willing to flop. Willing to sacrifice a better life. No one can make you change your mind about that. But if deep down inside, in your heart and in your soul, you know that you are destined for more, and there's more in you to give to the world, the truth really is that as an adult today, bringing yourself forward in the world and not letting your fear of failure stop you is the path to freedom, is the path to financial prosperity. If I had not been willing to take a chance on myself, if I had lost my job and gone right back in and written that resume and gotten the next job, if I had not been willing to take a leap of faith, and if I had let my fear of failure, and my father was worried, my husband was worried, everybody was worried, nobody wanted me to take a chance, but I knew it was wrong, and I was ready and willing to feel the failure if it meant that beyond that failure I was going to succeed. And I believed it. Somewhere inside I was gifted with the faith to go forward. And maybe the gift was really there for me, because I certainly failed a lot in the beginning. Don't get me wrong. I was watching other people succeed while I was failing. But I just knew that if I stuck with it, I would succeed eventually. And I did. And I succeeded way beyond what I thought I ever would create. And I think about today, what if I had let my fear of failure stop me from living my dream and my purpose, and I think about all the experiences that I've had and the people that I've worked with and the training that I've given to people and the education that I've provided for others and the difference that I've been able to make with them, and also what I've learned about myself. I think about all of that. If I had let my fear of failure stop me, I think about that and I go, I am blessed that some divine power gave me the willingness to not let the fear of failure stop me. And that's what's available to you. If you guys are looking for a magic bullet for how to overcome the fear of failure, here's the magic bullet. Don't let it stop you, period. You can feel it and go forward anyway. Because the truth is that what other people think of you, what other people say about you, means nothing as an adult. It doesn't mean anything, especially unless you really feel like it's preferable to live a life where you're going to let others limit you. If that's the choice you're making, then that's the choice you're making. Then no checklist, no tip sheet is going to make a bit of difference till you get to the source of it. But I want to tell you this, that most of us are living with fear of failure that comes from a 5 or a 6-year-old. And that's what's running the show. It's crazy, but true. So what do you do about it? If, let's say, you decide, okay, I'm done. I am ready to overcome my fear of failure. I really, really am. What do I do about that? Well, first of all, one of the things that you do that is absolutely contrary to getting new results is you keep talking about it. You talk about your fear of failure as if it is understandable and appreciable, and it's okay, like, because the world understands that fear of failure is acceptable. Is it? If you really believe that, and others are going to endorse your fear of failure, then you're hanging out with the wrong people. If you really want to progress, if you want to actualize your life, if you want to have greater success, you got to stop talking about it as if it's okay. You have to stop, because in the talking about it, you are not only reactivating the old programming, you are perpetuating it, and you're exacerbating it, and you're also tolerating it. And as you tolerate it, you're getting others to embrace it with you, and so they endorse you for it. So, and this goes on, and it's the vicious circle. You are accepting that fear of failure is a good reason, is a good rationale, and you can give me all kinds of reasons why, your fear of failure is justifiable, but it's not going to get you anything beyond what you have now. So that's one myth that's totally debunkable. Like, it's bunk. That's all, period. So you got to stop talking about it. You got to start really focusing on what you want, and talk about failure as something to embrace, not something to resist, because what you resist will persist. Why wouldn't you talk about welcoming failure as a stepping stone, which is really what it is? Because every single failure that I've had, including the very lengthy ones, have led me here, which I needed every one of them to get me here, to help me make the difference that I was intended to make, and also to live a life of much greater joy and prosperity and creativity. I could never be living the life that I'm living now if I had a job. No way. People would be telling me all the time what my value is, what I'm worth, what I should be doing, what I shouldn't be doing, and when. And all of that for the almighty paycheck, which they hold me hostage, they hold me hostage with. And I'm telling you, there's nothing wrong with liking the job life, but there are some big prices to pay, especially if you inside of you, you have a bigger purpose. So here is what I'm going to suggest to you as my toolkit for you. I have a few suggestions to make for you about how to overcome your fear of failure. The first thing is you got to stop accepting it as understandable or justifiable, and explain why it makes sense because of your mother or your father or your sister or your brother or your boss. All of that stuff will mean nothing to you, and if you really want the life you say you want. You have to be willing to fail as fast as possible and embrace it. Embrace failure and celebrate every single failure, because it truly is a stepping stone. And the faster you fail, the faster you can start succeeding. You need to daily retrain your brain. The first thing that you think about in the morning usually is what you're worried about. Before you even get out of bed, before your feet hit the floor, you're worried about something, and you start thinking about what went wrong or what could go wrong and all of that. You got to start retraining your brain and just turn the switch into a different direction and say, okay, wait a minute. What am I grateful for today? What am I excited about that I created yesterday and did yesterday? What accomplishment did I have yesterday? Even if my accomplishment was not giving into pain, taking a half a block walk, if that's what it was, that's good enough. That's really great. That's progress. Every little thing is a celebration. You got to start learning to retrain your brain into what is working, what is positive, what is good, what you can honor yourself for, and what you've overcome. Because if you don't, you're just reactivating the old tape, and the old tape isn't getting you anywhere closer to what you say you want. You have to get at the source. If you're not going to get at the source, you have to take a trip back in time and realize when you started to get those old messages, who gave them to you, and how you've been dragging them around for decades. If you're not willing to let go of the past, then you're going to be sitting with it forever, and it's your choice. But you came here today for some real info, for truth around how to overcome the fear of failure. And without getting at the source, you can't have the future that you want or that you say you want. And I want you to have it. And I know it's possible. You have to believe it's possible, but the first thing you have to do is stop talking about the past as if it's today, as if it's going to continue. You have to let go of it, because you are now an adult. You are no longer that kid, and you can take care of you. You can do it. You got all the tools. You also have to teach others how to treat you. So if you've got people in your life that are constantly judging you and constantly telling you what's wrong and why you're not doing things right and what you should be doing and what you shouldn't be doing, unless you start to retrain them on what you will allow to come into your world and what won't come into your world, they're going to continue to do it, because people will behave exactly as you train them to behave to you. So it's up to you to retrain them. If people start to share with me about why something won't work, and I'm really hungry to go after something, I'm going to listen to what they say, but I'm not going to believe what they say unless I am confident in my own belief. It comes from within me. Even if they have evidence, I don't believe them, because they're not me. They're not in my body. They're not in my brain. They're not in my heart. They're not in my soul. And they're definitely not in my pool of capability. And so nobody knows what is possible for me. They only know what's possible for them. And so I teach them exactly how to treat me. And if they're coming into my space and I'm giving them free rent in my head, that's my responsibility. It's my job to retrain them on how to treat me. And I'm saying this to you because it's one of the most difficult things. We have loved ones all around us. Maybe we're not living with our parental judgers anymore, but we have other judges living all around us. Bosses and children and grown children and friends, and sometimes parents still. And I have one of my clients has a parent still alive who is still judging her and still giving her judging messages, and she still keeps letting her mom, judge her, and demean her, and it has stopped her from she's a brilliant woman with unbelievable skills, talents, knowledge, and the ability to kill it in the business world. And she just keeps letting her mother, rob her of her dream. And until she's ready to let go of, that 5 or 6 year old kid taking in mom's judging, it's going to continue. So that's what the work is. The only way to do that is to teach people how to treat you, train them that way, Don't let it in, and set some new boundaries with people and get better people around you to reinforce your brilliance, your creativity, your skills, your talents, what you bring to the world. Those are the people you want around you, not the ones who are robbing you of your dream. I know that's a big request I'm making of you, and I will tell you that it's really interesting. I just want to share one thing. I had a really, 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 really close friend. I still to this day adore her. I still think of her as a friend from afar. But we were in the same industry for decades. We rode the train into New York City together every single day for decades. We had dinner in each other's houses for decades. We had the same birthday, several years apart. I just adored this person. I, to this day, love her. And when I went off into my own business and left my industry, she thought I was crazy because she is desperate for safety. And she was very, she didn't have a bigger dream. She felt fine. This was what her life was. And she could not get beyond any of her fears. And so she lived her life in mediocrity, living in comfort, but not fulfillment. Comfortable was better than fulfillment. I felt starved for fulfillment. So when I went into my own business, she thought I was out of my mind. She thought I was making a big mistake. She said, I don't get it. You got a 6-figure job, what you can do with your hands tied behind your back. Why don't you just shut up and take the paycheck? And I just couldn't do it. And so I left, and when I left and I started on my journey, it wasn't just a journey of business on my own. It was also a self-discovery journey, and it was a journey of personal growth. And I think that scared her more than anything. And so she began to take herself away from me, and she related less and less to me. And it was very hard because I missed her, but she was we were not in the same conversation anymore. And to this day, now I'm in my own business 20 years, and she's still riding the train. Same job, same company. Nothing changed for her. And that's how it is. So I ask you, what do you want in your life? I was willing to feel the fear of failure and do it anyway. I invite you to do the same. I can't tell you what it feels like on the other side of it, and to be free of, I have learned over time to consider what other people think less, and to really trust my own intuition, my own heart, my own soul. And it has led me to some really good places. And moreover, I want to tell you one thing that maybe this will be inspiring for you. By letting go or not letting my fear of failure stop me, the depth of my relationships with people has skyrocketed, and the kind of connections that I have with people and the joy I feel in my relationships with people, with my clients, with my students, with my potential clients, with my colleagues in the business world, with everybody around me. It is so delicious that I don't know what would have happened if I had not taken that step. And I think about that, and it would have been like living in sort of muddy water for a really long time. And I'm grateful that something gave me the impetus. And I had a mentor who helped me over the first hump, of course, who kept, walked along that, I call it the bridge of fear. He walked with me, and I'm so grateful that I let him do that because I couldn't do it alone. The people in my life were terrified, but he stuck with me and I stuck with him, and it helped me over the bridge of fear. And that's what I'm here for you guys for. So if anybody is stuck and unable to walk over that bridge of fear because of the fear of failure, my invitation to you is, there's a helping hand here. Reach out to me, come on to a discovery call with me, watch my complimentary webinar. But the link to go to if you want to book a discovery call with me to help you learn how to get beyond your fear of failure is www.thebusinessfox.com/let's-talk. I would love to talk to you about that. I would love to help you over your bridge of fear if that's what you want. But I can tell you this, that nobody is on this call with me today who doesn't have it within them to be successful, to be a thriver, to prosper, and to have a life filled with purpose and with prosperity, more than you ever have had before. Okay, guys, questions. Anybody got any questions for me? Let's see. I'm going to try and see if there are any other. I don't see any questions, but if you have one, I'm happy to answer them. Hey, Amy, welcome. Hi, Janet. Hi, Joni. Anybody have any questions? Let's see. I'm trying to scroll up. Sorry for my finger, guys. I don't see any questions, but I'm here to answer any. Anybody? I'm going to give it a couple of minutes. I want to thank you guys for being with me today. I really appreciate it. I can't tell you how important you are to me. Hang on one second. I got another screen coming up. Let's see. I don't see any questions. I was looking at another screen. All right, you guys, that's it from me. I hope you found this valuable. Maybe after today's session, if you have some questions or some things you want to share with me, reach out. www.thebusinessfox.com/let's-talk. Okay, guys, I'm thinking of you. I love you. I'm sending you my biggest high fives for every bit of effort that you make. I'm with you. Oh, thank you for the high five. I really appreciate it. I'm with you. Have a great weekend, everybody, and I'll see you next week. Bye.